The Aussies were trying to make the Americans eat their dust today in a fiery practice run. All the Americans could do was watch. Their race cars are yet to arrive. But the four-man team is keen to take out the first of 7 tests, carrying on their winning streak from last year.
You know, last year we got a little rough, and it smoothed itself out later in the other events. But I think it hopefully we'll just get out there and have a good time.
All the Aussies are from the Hunter, John and Ron Pine, Brewer and McEwen, and the local boys are feeling good about racing in Newcastle.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard test, but I think we can roll them. It's home track advantage.
The first test starts on Boxing Night.
After 2 days without the temptation to spend, shoppers were today showing the pent-up demand in the Hunter economy. David Jones stores in Newcastle and Katara both reporting strong demand as bargain hunters took advantage of clearance sales.
Before we opened, we had over 400 people at our doors this morning, and within an hour our car park was full, and it's been like that ever since.
The response has been reassuring for retailers, with most Christmas shopping done over the final 10 days of trading. It's expected the continuation of good trading conditions could see today's sales figures post a new record.
This is the biggest trading day for most retailers, this day, the day after Boxing Day, and the way it's going, I think it could be an all-time record day.
The focus of buyer attention were the essentials of life, with clothing, underwear and shoes in strong demand. Items for the home were also doing a steady trade, while the toy department was still receiving plenty of attention. Major stores had to bolster their staffing to handle the expected customer influx, with casuals joining permanent employees to keep the tills ticking over. Hunter Mall traders weren't missing out on the action, with the lunchtime crowd in Newcastle proving the public were in search of a bargain. Suburban shopping complexes also reported steady trade during the day. However, if you missed out, the shops will be open and expecting a constant stream of business until they close on Friday evening for the New Year holiday.
For the Breakers, it was a win they had to have. After 4 straight losses, the losing mentality was in danger of setting in. But they showed there wasn't a thing wrong with their mental application. In the first 5 minutes, they had no less than 3 scoring opportunities. Finally, Graham Jennings got one through. And as always, Warren Spink was lurking around the goals when needed. John Macquarie, like most of his teammates, just seemed to have found the touch. Spink is becoming the master of deception when it comes to one-on-one with a goalie. The Breakers had a 4-0 lead at half-time and showed no sign of allowing Heidelberg anywhere near their goal, the backline displaying all the enthusiasm of a winning side. At the other end, the Heidelberg goalie was looking at a pretty damning scoreline, but stopped the score becoming ridiculous. But he just couldn't control partners Spink and Brown, Rod Brown showing the value in backing up. The pair combining again for the last say. Darren Stewart made an impressive return and was replaced late in the game only as a precaution. He and the rest of the team will have to prove the win wasn't a fluke when they back up against competition leaders, the Melbourne Knights, on Wednesday. 1, 5 and 3. Second place Kalahari Sands paid well at $6.10, but there were insufficient starters for a third place divvy. The Quinella $18.60 and the Trifecta $48.80. At Moonee Valley, the feature event was an equine marathon, the Good Health Handicap, over 2,048 metres. Two, 10 and 1. Temporise paid $2.10 and $1.60. Again, not enough starters for a third place dividend. Quinella disappointing at $9.50 and $37.90 for the Trifecta. Only the first two riders in the final qualified for the Australian Championships in January, and predictably the battle for position was intense. Sydney rider Craig Boyce led for most of the race, but nearly lost the plot on the last corner. However, he recovered to win comfortably, with Newcastle pair Stephen Davies and Tony Primer finishing second and third. Boyce finished the night with a rare 15-point maximum, a clean sweep of every heat. And there was typical push and shove in the sidecars, the dust adding an extra hazard. But it didn't seem to worry the Central Coast team of Mark Griffiths and Chris Wilson. They cleaned up the handicap event, with Sydney crew Mick Lillis and Trevor Kane second, and Steve Summerling and Wayne Ferry finishing third.
The outbreak causing most concern was in a public reserve behind homes off Grove Lake Close and Woodside Crescent at Ellabana Heights. Residents have been calling for action to reduce the heavy fuel load in the bushland for some time. By early this afternoon, their concerns about the area were being realised. 3 fire units from the Lake Macquarie area tackled the blaze, which was being fanned by strong westerly winds, and began heading for homes. Homeowners closest to the blaze did what they could to dampen the ground to offer some resistance to the fire. Prepared for the worst, a waiting game developed, but a wind shift provided the breakthrough for both residents and fire brigade officers.
At this stage, no, they're helping us. If they change, well, they could pose a problem, but we're just trying to keep our eye on it, just watch it, and hopefully it'll burn itself out.
Across the city, Newcastle's Bushland Park Blackbutt Reserve continued to provide headaches for emergency services. This afternoon, separate fires continued to burn, with gusty winds and stray embers allowing the tinder-dry undergrowth to be easily consumed. Despite a total fire ban being enforced from 9 this morning, fire officers did find members of the public in the park disobeying the directive, despite the fires in nearby bushland.
I've had to talk to a couple of people I noticed in Blackbutt Park, actually using the barbecues. Had no idea, or said they had no idea there was a total fire ban on.
The Blackbutt fire has now blackened numerous hectares of the park over the past 3 days, with lighter winds and heavy rain now the keys to eliminating the outbreak. Two bandits broke into Swansea Workers Club at about 3 o'clock this morning. They used a side window to gain access to their targets, poker machines. While their stay was less than 2 minutes, it was long enough for the thieves to be captured by a security camera.
Yeah, they were recorded by the club's camera, and the police now have that tape in glorious Technicolor and stereophonic sound. I hope there'll be some use for them in apprehending these people.
It's the second raid on poker machine cash boxes from Newcastle clubs in 24 hours. Swansea Workers Secretary-Manager Bruce Kemp says the break-in has left him unimpressed.
More concerned than disappointed, Gary. It's a sign of the times. It's getting more prevalent all the time.
The club has appealed for any extra help from the public who may have witnessed the raid to contact Belmont Police. Shoppers turning out en masse in the Newcastle Mall today is indicative of the brisk trade being experienced by retailers. Monday's opening to the post-Christmas sales turned out to be a record day. Turnover figures for some major stores were up 15% in the Newcastle area and 70% at Maitland. The first trading day after Christmas is traditionally the biggest shopping day of the year, tapering off in following days. However, this year retailers have been amazed with sales figures for yesterday that were up between 25 and 30% compared with last year, and there was no relenting today as big crowds continued to buy up. Shoppers are proving to be discerning, with quality merchandise in big demand, with the price tag failing to change many people's plans. Most retailers believe the strength of consumer demand in the region won't be dampened before they close on Friday for New Year's Day. It's expected with more sales beginning next week, the shops could be in for a busy start to 1994.
"18-year-old Shane Day of Thornton was surfing at the Cowrie Hole around 2:30 this afternoon. It's believed he was trying to make his way back to shore when his legs cramped. He managed to at Newcastle Baths, who notified a passing fishing boat. He was pulled aboard and taken around to Horseshoe Beach in Newcastle Harbour.
I sort of wanted to paddle around the Cowrie Hole to Newcastle, and I got out there and I was stuck and my legs weren't working for me and I was panicking, yeah.
Off the cliff at Bar Beach, surfers were dwarfed by some of the swells rolling in, while at Redhead, wild conditions and a strong rip forced beach inspectors to close the beach. Even so, late this afternoon, 3 beach inspectors had to rescue 3 adults and a young boy at the southern end of the beach. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
The impending crunch for the export coal industry has been looming for some time. Negotiations on prices for the new selling year are yet to be finalised. While not uncommon, it's claimed all is not well behind the scenes. Recession-hit Japanese power and steel producers are reported to be wanting price and tonnage reductions. But Australian negotiators are under pressure not to accept any further drop in price, especially after a recent Coal Association report showed total industry profit for the past year only totalled less than $200 million. The grim warning, no profitability, no money to carry out the much-needed expansion of the industry forecast before the turn of the century. Mine workers are also turning up the heat, today renewing their threat of strike action if job security is sacrificed for a cheap deal. The Coal Industry Tribunal could hold the key to stability when it hands down a decision touching on the pricing question. It's due to rule in February on job security in the coal industry, the issue which sparked September's national coal strike. The United Mine Workers Federation says any decision on further industrial action will be reserved until then. While it may seem like a radical response by the mining union, they argue the Japanese have been paying about 50% less for raw materials like coal over the past 5 years, when appreciation of the yen is taken into account.
Six, 3 and 7. Opperline Miss paid a whopping $11.10 for the win and $3.10 for the place. The Quinella $50 and the trifecta $582.50.
The rugged terrain at Howes Valley, 25 kilometres west of Cessnock, has made the firefighters' job almost impossible, the fire taking hold on the steep country. There are 3 different outbreaks in this area alone. The National Parks and Wildlife Service has brought in its chopper to waterbomb the region, but it's a big ask.
We've been unable to lock it up on 2 sides. We need to extend the control lines and therefore increase the fire with backburning by something like 1,000 hectares.
Fires are also burning at Dural Valley at Jerry's Plains. A state of emergency has been declared. Strong westerly winds and tinder dry bush a recipe for trouble. More than 6,000 hectares of mainly national park or state forest has already been burnt out since Boxing Day. It's believed the fires were deliberately lit.
For people who give up their time, such as bushfire services and state emergency services, to counteract these sort of things, it's a pretty disgusting thought that you've got other people running around and causing these sort of problems.
Singleton detectives are questioning 2 men in relation to the fires. Tonight, 30 crews are either working or on standby. While no private property is under immediate threat, it's expected the fire will burn for days. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Spot fires ringing Lake Macquarie were fanned by blustery nor'westerly winds and cut the F3 freeway in several places as roadside trees flared. Police diverted traffic about Freeman's Waterhole and Minmai, but some cars slipped the cordon only to be hemmed in by blinding smoke.
Our wind's come up on us. We've virtually lost the fire at the moment, but we've got to watch that house up the top. Otherwise, we're going to lose it otherwise.
Firefighters could only guess where the flames would break out next. Several houses were in the path of the hungry flames and all available volunteers were pressed into service, some facing their first summer bushfire emergency. By mid-afternoon, all Lake Macquarie volunteers were summoned to headquarters at Bullaroo. The freeway and city's western link roads are open tonight, but police and fire units are keeping watch. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
And another red alert for fire units here at the Monia roofing tile factory in Edgeworth. The firefighters could do nothing to stop the advancing flames as they took hold of a dispatch building. But the real danger was an LP gas cylinder just meeting the burning building.
The main concern is the LPG tank at this time.
What are your fears?
Well, if it gets too hot and it starts to, it just erupts from the safety valve, then it overheats and we have a problem.
Firefighters put their own lives on the line, dousing the tank to keep it cool. With only limited resources, they had to leave the building to burn to concentrate on the gas tank to prevent a possible explosion. The fire was left to run through the bush. It came down to a question of priorities.
The Taipans are a new design and have been contesting their national championships on the lake for the past week. 26 craft headed out for the final heat today with 50 km/h northwesterly gusts, testing crews and equipment. 4 of the fleet withdrew. Those who stayed in the race flew. Sailors stretched their body weight out on trapeze to balance the straining sails. Most of the time only one hull slices the water. The championship was contested over 3 divisions, including single-handers and varying rigs. South Australian husband and wife team, John and Geraldine Amos, sailing lip service, were overall winners. Scott Crichton and Linda Ryan from Umina came second on Flying Scotsman, and 2 Belmont teenagers, Ben Vaughan and Dane Lambert, sailed home third in Pekin.
It's a lifelong investment for many youngsters, some just capable of a dog paddle, many learning to swim for the first time. The lessons are aimed at keeping children alive in the water and making it fun as well. Swimming lessons can open up a world of water activities for children, and instructors say the sooner the better.
It involves taking children from 5 to 12 and starting them right from just becoming aware of the water and getting used to it and learning that it's a fun thing to be in, to becoming reasonably good swimmers.
Classes continue this month at ocean and inland pools throughout the Hunter. Enquiries can be directed to the Department of Sport and Recreation.
The riverbank near Port Macquarie Rowing Club was crowded with every class of craft for the more than 40 event program. Organisers say conditions were excellent for the competition, which attracted rowers from 20 Sydney, Central Coast and Mid-North Coast clubs. School and uni crews fielded many aspiring young rowers eager to break into senior ranks. 8s, quads, double sculls, singles and pairs were raced over 1,000 and 1,500 metre courses. There were junior as well as senior men's and women's divisions, with the girls of the Port Macquarie Novice Quads capitalising on their summer-long training regime. It's early days, but club officials have written to European Olympic rowing organisations offering Port Macquarie as a training base for the year 2000 Games. Some of the rowers in today's regatta have their eyes on Olympic selection, but in the meantime are following the state circuit. Many will hit the road for the Manning River Regatta at Taree tomorrow. The placings, 10, 11 and 1. Al-Anon, $3.80 for the win, $1.60 for a place. Lady Jakio, $2.40. Durbridge, $4.10. The Quinella, $12. And the Trifecta, $230.50. Also at Rose Hill, the Parramatta Cup, over 2,000 metres. Placings 3, 12 and 14. Caladan paid $15.20 and $4.30. Calvados Charm $5 even, and Surrender Now $8.50. The Quinella $143.80 and the Trifecta $7,853.70.
A tearful Juanita Pilley sat anxiously on the front doorstep waiting for her 11-year-old son to come home. After 5 days of what she says has been sheer hell, Juanita was told this morning that Jai had been found safe and well in the Sydney suburb of St Mary's.
Very relieved. I was thinking nothing but the worst.
The boy's disappearance had sparked a major police alert in both Sydney and the Hunter. This afternoon, the moment Juanita Pilley had been waiting for. Jai arrived home. Jai had been visiting his father in Sydney over Christmas. He was last seen on Tuesday when friends dropped him and another 6-year-old boy at Parramatta's swimming pool. His mother says Jai left after a disagreement with the people he'd been staying with. He spent the last few days with other friends in Sydney.
He saw it on TV. He was in St Mary's and he rang the police himself and the police come and got him.
It was an evening of close finishes. Everyone had their eyes on classy US pro Sean Carlos, who was looking good for the money. The specially built track made for some spectacular action. The Masters final over 20 laps, with Victorians Lee Hogan and Stephen Andrew taking command early, but Carlos closed in dramatically in the dying laps. However, Andrew showed real guts to hang in there and win by a single bike length. In the 125cc category, Westwall's End junior Craig Anderson did his home crowd proud with a brilliant victory. Peter Ryan, NBN News.